The Galactic Combat Academy was never quiet. It was built on a dead moon, far from any peaceful system. Every species in the known galaxy sent its strongest young warriors here. The halls echoed with metal boots, sharp voices, and the sound of training weapons striking armor. Noise meant confidence. Silence meant fear. Krellis walked through the main training hall like he owned it. He was tall, thick-scaled, and marked with victory symbols across his chest. His species, the Varketh, were known fighters. They respected only strength and dominance. Krellis had both. Other cadets stepped aside when he passed. That was why he noticed the human immediately. The human did not belong. He stood near the edge of the hall, watching instead of speaking. He was smaller than most cadets. His body had no visible armor plates, no claws, no fangs. His uniform was plain gray, with no rank signs, no honor marks. But what caught Krellis's attention was something else. The human wore gloves. Not light training gloves, not ceremonial ones. Heavy fabric gloves, covering both hands fully. No other cadet did that. In the academy, marks were shown with pride. Scars, burns, ritual cuts, proof of survival. The human hid his. Krellis laughed quietly. A soft species, he thought, trying to look mysterious. During drills, the human moved only when ordered. He never rushed, never showed aggression. When insulted by other cadets, he did not respond. When challenged with mocking words, he did not react. That calm was wrong. Predators showed anger. Prey showed fear. The human showed neither. Instructor alarms sounded, signaling a break. Cadets gathered in groups, bragging and arguing. Krellis moved closer to the human, surrounded by a few Varketh allies. "You," Krellis said loudly. "Human!" The human turned slowly. His face was neutral. His eyes did not widen. He did not bow. "Yes," the human replied. Just one word, calm, flat. Krellis felt irritation crawl under his scales. "Why do you hide your hands?" Krellis asked. "Ashamed of weakness?" Some cadets laughed. The human looked at his gloves, then back at Krellis. "They are not for you," the human said. That answer only made Krellis angrier. He stepped closer, towering over the human. "Everything in this academy is tested. Strength, courage, truth." He reached out. The human spoke again, his voice still calm. "Do not touch me." The words were not loud, not threatening, but something in the air shifted. Krellis ignored it. He grabbed the human's wrist and pulled. The glove slid back. The mark was exposed. At first, Krellis saw only lines, dark shapes etched into pale skin, symbols he did not recognize, not decorative, not clean. They looked old, burned, pressed into flesh long ago. Curiosity pushed him forward. His fingers touched the mark. The moment froze. The sound vanished. The academy went silent. Not quiet, silent. Training weapons dropped to the floor. Instructors stopped mid-step. A massive simulation drone shut down without command. Even the air systems hummed lower, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Krellis felt it instantly. It was not pain. It was weight. His vision blurred, and something else pushed into his mind. Flashes that were not his. Dark skies, burning ground, screams that did not sound alien. Ships falling like dying stars. Numbers, endless numbers. Loss, resistance, survival at impossible cost. Krellis gasped and stumbled back, releasing the human's wrist. His heart hammered, his hands shook. Around him, cadets stared in horror. Some stepped away from the human, others lowered their eyes. A few senior cadets looked pale, their bodies stiff with recognition. An instructor whispered, "No." Another said, barely audibly, "It's real." The human pulled his glove back on slowly. He did not look angry. He looked tired. "I warned you," he said quietly. Krellis tried to speak, but his throat felt tight. What was that?" he managed. The human looked at him for a long moment. "That," he said, "is memory." Instructor alarms blared suddenly, sharp and urgent. Red lights flashed across the hall. "All units, stand down," a senior instructor shouted. "Medical team to Training Hall 3, now!" But the medical team did not rush toward the human. They rushed toward Krellis. Two officers grabbed him as his legs gave out. His vision spun. The mark's images still burned behind his eyes. "Restrain him," someone ordered, "before shock sets in." Krellis looked up one last time. The human stood alone, no weapons raised, no defensive stance. Yet no one moved closer. Fear had drawn an invisible line around him. As Krellis was dragged away, he heard an instructor speak in a voice filled with dread. Why would a human bring a combat mark like that to an academy? The human said nothing, but the silence around him was answer enough.
The eerie silence did not end when Krellis was taken away. It stayed. The Galactic Combat Academy had faced riots, duels, and even invasion drills, but never this kind of stillness. Cadets stood frozen where they were, eyes fixed on the human in gray. Unit Gray. That was the name now whispered across the hall. Senior instructors moved fast, not in panic, but in control shaped by fear. Orders were given in low voices. Training sessions were canceled without explanation. Security barriers slid into place, separating the human from the rest of the cadets. No one protested. Everyone obeyed. The human stood calmly as officers scanned his wrist. Their instruments beeped, then shut down. One device sparked and died. The lead medical officer stepped back. "It's not an injury," she said slowly. "It's not artificial either." An instructor asked, "Then what is it?" The officer swallowed. "It's layered, like a record written over itself again and again." Krellis was carried into a medical bay nearby. His body shook as if recovering from extreme exposure. His mind replayed images he could not name, cities falling, lines of humans standing against endless darkness. He grabbed the edge of the medical bed. "Get it out of my head," he begged. The medic looked grim. "That wasn't an attack," she said. "You touched something you were never meant to access." Back in the hall, the academy director arrived. Director Hesh was old, older than most wars. His body was weak, but his eyes were sharp. He looked at the human and stopped walking. Slowly, he bowed. That single action sent a shock through every witness. "Director," an instructor whispered. Hesh straightened. "Or," he ordered, "only command staff remain." When the cadets were gone, the doors sealed shut. The human finally spoke. "You should not have allowed casual contact," Unit Gray said. Hesh nodded. "We underestimated the meaning of your mark." One instructor crossed his arms. "Explain it then," he said, trying to sound strong. "What did we just see?" The human was quiet for a long moment. "Most species," he began, "erase their worst memories. They heal by forgetting." He looked at his gloved hand. "Healing by remembering." The instructors exchanged uneasy looks. "The mark you touched," the human continued, "is not a medal. It is not decoration. It is not pride." "Then what is it?" Hesh asked. It is a survival record, Unit Gray replied. Every symbol represents a moment when extinction was possible. One instructor shook his head. That's impossible. No species could survive that many events. The human met his gaze. Correct. The room grew cold. We shouldn't exist, the human said simply, but we do. Director Hesh leaned forward. Why mark it on the body? Because memory fades, skin does not. He explained slowly, using words even the youngest cadet could understand. Humans began marking themselves during their earliest wars, when they learned that history repeated itself. Each mark was a reminder of what happened when they were careless, when they trusted too easily, when they believed peace was permanent. These marks are passed down, not by blood, by teaching, by responsibility. Another instructor asked quietly, "And touching it?" The human's eyes hardened slightly. That is considered forced sharing. Hesh closed his eyes. Forced sharing of survival memory is a hostile act. The room understood now why the alarms had triggered. Krellis had not been attacked. He had invaded. In the medical bay, Krellis finally stopped shaking. He stared at his hands. "I saw them die. Humans, millions of them." The medic nodded. "Yes. Why didn't they run?" he asked. "Why didn't they fight?" The medic hesitated. "Because humans do not fight to win. They fight to delay extinction." Back in the command hall, the human removed one glove, not to show the mark, but to rest his hand on the table. "You brought war memory into a school," an instructor accused. "Why?" "I did not," Unit Gray said calmly. "You invited me." Hesh sighed deeply. "Why hide it then?" "Because when humans show their marks, other species react in two ways, which are fear or preemptive violence." The instructors exchanged looks. Most choose violence. Silence followed. Finally, Director Hesh asked the question everyone feared. "How many marks do you carry?" The human did not answer immediately. "Enough," he said at last. Hesh looked away. Outside the sealed hall, cadets whispered rumors. Some said the human was a weapon. Others said he was cursed. Some believed he was a test sent by the galaxy itself. But one truth spread fast. Human combat marks were not honors, they were warnings, and Krellis had touched one. That night, the Academy lights dimmed earlier than usual. Security doubled, and for the first time in the galaxy's history, the Galactic Combat Academy added a temporary rule. Human contact requires permission. No one argued, because everyone now understood that mark did not show how strong humans were. It showed how much they had already survived.
The council chamber of the Galactic Combat Academy had not been used in decades. It was built for war meetings, not training disputes. Thick walls blocked all signals. Old banners from extinct species hung silently from the ceiling. Unit Gray stood alone at the center of the room. He was not restrained. He did not need to be. Director Hesh sat at the highest seat, surrounded by council members, senior instructors, and observers from allied species. Every face showed tension. "This session is sealed," Hesh announced. "Nothing spoken here leaves this chamber." Unit Gray nodded once. "You caused panic," one council member said. "You disrupted Academy order." "I stood still," the human replied calmly. "Others acted." Another member leaned forward. "Your presence alone is a threat." Unit Gray looked at them. "Then you misunderstand the threat." Hesh raised a hand. "Enough. We need clarity." He turned to the human. "Who are you, really?" Unit Gray exhaled slowly. "My name is not important. What I represent is." A council member scoffed.
You represent fear. No, the human answered. I represent consequence. Silence followed. Explain, Hash asked. Unit Gray lifted his gloved hand. This mark did not come from victory. It came from survival. He spoke without drama, without pride. His story began far from the academy, on a human colony world that no longer existed. The colony had been small, poorly defended, declared neutral. That did not matter. Neutrality does not protect you from extinction events. An unknown swarm species arrived without warning. They did not negotiate, they consumed. Human forces arrived late, too late to save the cities. Unit Gray had been a civilian then. I was a rescue worker, not a soldier. The council stirred uneasily. We pulled survivors from ruins, children, elders, anyone still breathing. Then the second wave came. Human rescue teams were given a choice: retreat or stay and delay the swarms so transports could escape. They stayed. That decision became my first mark, Unit Gray said quietly. One council member whispered, "How many survived?" "Enough," he replied. The humans' next memory came from another system, another war. This time, humans were prepared. They built fleets, weapons, strategies. It did not matter. The enemy adapted faster. We learned something important, Unit Gray said. Winning was optional. Time was not. Humans fought to slow invasions, not stop them. They sacrificed worlds to save species. They evacuated planets they would never see again. Each time, those who survived were marked, not for bravery, for remembrance. A council member clenched their claws. Why mark civilians? Because civilians die first, and they deserve to be remembered. Hesh closed his eyes briefly. Unit Gray continued. The mark Krellis touched contained fragments of dozens of events. None were complete stories, just flashes. That is why he collapsed, Unit Gray said. He felt them without context. Why didn't it kill him? Someone asked. The human looked at the floor. Because his mind rejected it. Silence again. A council member spoke carefully. Are all humans marked? No, Unit Gray said. Only those who survive extinction-level contact. Then how many exist like you? The human paused. Enough, he repeated. Hesh leaned forward. Why come here? Unit Gray met his gaze. To see if the galaxy had learned anything. The words struck harder than any weapon. Are you testing us? An instructor asked angrily. No, the human said. I am measuring you. Hash swallowed. And? Unit Gray's voice remained neutral. So far, you treat memory as a threat. That means you are not ready. Ready for what? A council member demanded. For us to stop hiding. The human replied. The chamber fell silent. Humans hide their marks because we are tired of being attacked for surviving, Unit Gray said. Every time the galaxy sees what we endured, someone decides to end us first. Because they fear you, Hesh said. No, Unit Gray corrected gently. Because they fear becoming us. The council understood now. Humans were not proud of their scars. They were afraid others would repeat them. Hesh stood slowly. You said you were not a soldier. I am not, Unit Gray said. I was trained later, out of necessity. Your rank? Hesh asked. I have none, Unit Gray answered. I answer only to extinction. That answer ended all questions. After the session, Unit Gray was escorted, not imprisoned, to a private quarters. Guards stood outside, unsure whether they were protecting him or the academy. News spread quickly among cadets. The human had not come to learn how to fight. He had come to see who remembered why fighting started. And somewhere in the medical wing, Krellis stared at the ceiling, realizing the truth too late. He had not touched a warrior's mark. He had touched history.
The academy did not return to normal after the council meeting. It tried. Training schedules resumed, lights turned back to full brightness, instructors spoke with firm voices again. But something had changed, and everyone felt it. The human was the reason. Unit Gray moved through the academy halls quietly. He kept his gloves on. He did not look at others for long. He did not demand respect. Still, cadets stepped aside, some out of fear, some out of respect. Whispers followed him everywhere. He survived extinction. He carries war on his skin. He's not a cadet. He's a warning. Krellis remained in the medical wing. His body had healed, but his mind had not. He woke from sleep shaking, seeing burning skies that were not his own. A senior instructor visited him. "You will recover," she said. Krellis stared at the ceiling. "Why didn't he stop me?" he asked. "Why didn't he fight back?" Because humans do not always prevent mistakes. They let others learn from them. That answer troubled Krellis more than anger would have. In the command wing, Director Hesh requested another meeting with Unit Gray. This time, no council, no observers, only truth. "Walk with me," Hesh said. They moved through an old memorial hall. Stone slabs lined the walls, each etched with the names of fallen cadets from many species. "Why do humans hide their marks?" Hesh asked again. Unit Gray stopped before a slab marked "Extinct Species, Unknown Name." "Because showing them ends conversations," Unit Gray said. Hesh waited. "When other species see our marks, they do not ask what happened. They ask how to stop it from happening to them." "And they choose war," Hesh said quietly. "Yes." The human explained simply. Every time humans revealed their survival records, alliances collapsed, trade halted, preemptive strikes followed. Species attacked humans not out of hatred, but fear. They believed, Unit Gray said, that if they destroyed us early, they would never face what we survived. Hesh's voice was low. "And did it work?" "No," the human replied. "It never does." They walked again. "Humans learned," Unit Gray said. "If we hide our past, we are treated as equals. If we reveal it, we are treated as disasters waiting to happen." "So you hide," Hesh said. "Yes," Unit Gray replied, "out of mercy." Hesh stopped walking. "Mercy for whom?" he asked. "For you," Unit Gray answered. The director felt the weight of that truth settle in his chest. Later that day, a group of senior cadets approached Unit Gray in a training chamber. They kept a respectful distance. "We want to understand," one said. Unit Gray looked at them. "Understanding is not safe." "We already know some," another replied. "You survived extinction." The human nodded. So did many others. "Why mark it?" a cadet asked. Unit Gray thought for a moment. "Because forgetting creates arrogance." The cadets listened closely. "When a species forgets how close it came to ending," the human said, "it starts believing it is untouchable." The room was silent. "We mark ourselves," he continued, "to remember our limits." A cadet whispered, "That sounds like pain." "It is," Unit Gray said, "but pain teaches better than pride." The Academy announced new guidelines that evening. Human cadets would not be required to display physical markings. Human history modules were added to the curriculum, marked restricted access. Some protested. Most did not. Krellis was released from medical care days later. He moved slowly, avoiding crowds. When he finally saw Unit Gray again, it was in the memorial hall. Krellis stopped at a distance. "I didn't know," he said. Unit Gray turned. "Most don't." "I thought marks meant victory," Krellis admitted. "Strength." The human shook his head. "Marks mean cost." Krellis swallowed. "Why didn't you remove it?" Unit Gray's voice was steady. "Because forgetting is more dangerous." That night, the Academy archives unlocked a sealed record at Director Hesch's request. It was titled Human Survival Doctrine. The final line read, "We do not show our scars to frighten the galaxy. We hide them so the galaxy does not repeat our mistakes." When Hesch finished reading, he understood the truth fully. Humans did not hide their marks because they were ashamed. They hid them because if others truly understood them, the galaxy would never sleep peacefully again. And somewhere in the Academy, Unit Gray stood alone, gloved hands folded, carrying history in silence.
The announcement came without warning. All cadets were ordered to gather in Simulation Hall 1. The message did not explain why. It only said attendance was mandatory. That alone made everyone uneasy. Simulation Hall 1 was not used for training. It was used for evaluation, when the Academy needed truth, not practice. Rows of cadets filled the massive chamber. Conversations were quiet. Eyes moved often toward the human standing near the front. Unit Gray. He wore the same plain uniform, the same gloves. He looked like he was waiting for a transport, not a trial. Director Hesch appeared on the central platform. His voice echoed across the hall. "The Academy exists to prepare this galaxy for war," he said. "But preparation means nothing if we misunderstand our allies." Murmurs spread. "Today," Hesch continued, "we test understanding." A large holographic display activated. Star systems appeared, rotating slowly. "This is a full-scale survival simulation," Hesch said. "Adaptive enemy, no preset outcome." Cadets stiffened. Someone whispered, "That system is banned." "It's unpredictable," another said. "It breaks combat logic." Director Hesch looked toward Unit Gray. "The human has agreed to participate." Every eye turned. Unit Gray nodded once. A senior instructor spoke sharply. "This is not a duel. It is an extinction-level scenario." "I know," the human replied calmly. Krellis stood among the cadets, heart pounding. He understood now what this meant. They were not testing the human. They were testing themselves. Unit Gray entered the simulation chamber alone. No squad, no support, no command input. The chamber sealed. "Simulation start," the system announced. Instantly, chaos filled the display. Enemy forces multiplied faster than prediction models. Entire planetary grids collapsed within seconds. Defensive strategies failed before forming. "Adjusting difficulty," the system said. "No," Director Hesch ordered. "Let it run." Inside the simulation, Unit Gray did not rush. He did not attack. He observed. He abandoned positions before they failed. He sacrificed assets before they were lost. He redirected civilian units before the system flagged danger. An instructor frowned. "He's giving up ground." Hesch shook his head. "He's buying time." Minutes passed. The enemy forces adapted again. They cut off escape routes. They surrounded the humans' final stronghold. "This is impossible," someone whispered. "No one survives this phase." Unit Gray did not try to win. He triggered evacuation protocols. The
The system hesitated. "Civilian priority conflict detected," it announced. Unit Gray overrode it. The system struggled to process a strategy that valued lives over victory. Then it happened. The simulation began to fail. Not crash, fail. Enemy behavior became erratic. Prediction models contradicted themselves. The system could not calculate a species that accepted loss as part of survival. System integrity dropping, an instructor warned. Inside the chamber, Unit Gray stood still. He had done his job. The simulation shut itself down. Alarms sounded. Lights flickered. Then silence returned. The chamber opened. Unit Gray stepped out. He was breathing hard, but calm. No celebration, no pride. Director Hesh spoke softly. Result? The system displayed a single line. Extinction delay achieved. Outcome undefined. The hall was silent. "That's not victory," a cadet whispered. "No," Hesh said. "It's survival." A senior instructor looked shaken. The system couldn't understand him. Unit Gray removed one glove, not to show the mark, but to wipe sweat from his palm. "Our enemies think in terms of winning," he said. "We think in terms of not ending." Krellis felt something shift inside him. This was not fear. It was understanding. Director Hesh addressed the cadets. "You train to defeat enemies. Humans train to outlast them." He looked at Unit Gray. "You did not fight." "I did, just not the way you expected." That night, Academy records were updated. A new classification was added to simulations. Human compatible logic, unstable. Requests came from other systems almost immediately. Observers wanted data. Councils wanted access. Director Hesh denied them all. "This lesson," he said, "is not for export." Krellis stood alone later, watching the stars beyond the Academy window. He finally understood. Human combat marks did not mean the human was dangerous. It meant the universe was, and humans were the ones who remembered how to survive it.
The Academy changed after the simulation. Not loudly, not suddenly, but permanently. Training halls were quieter now. Not because cadets were afraid, but because they were thinking. Lessons became slower, deeper. Instructors spoke less about victory and more about survival. And at the center of it all was the human, Unit Gray. He did not demand attention. He did not speak unless asked. Yet every species watched him closely, as if he carried an answer the galaxy had been avoiding. The change did not stop at the Academy. Word reached the Galactic Council. Not rumors, not fear stories, data. Simulation logs, behavioral records, system failures that had never happened before. A strategy that did not aim to win, yet refused to end. The Council called an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, a human was invited, not as an observer, but as a voice. The chamber was vast, filled with delegates from hundreds of species. Some wore armor, some wore ceremonial robes. All carried caution. Unit Gray stood alone at the center, unarmed, gloved. The council speaker began. "Human representative, your methods disrupt established doctrine." Unit Gray nodded. "So did extinction," he said calmly. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A delegate stood. "Your combat marks are considered psychological weapons." "They are memories," the human replied.
You decide how to react to them. Another delegate hissed. You hide them because you know they terrify us. Unit Gray looked around the chamber. No, he said softly. We hide them because if you truly understood them, you would attack us first. Silence followed. The speaker asked, Then why reveal anything now? Unit Gray took a slow breath. Because the galaxy is approaching another extinction threshold, he said calmly, and you are not prepared. The council demanded proof. Unit Gray did not argue. He shared data, collapsed civilizations, repeating patterns, warning signs every human historian recognized. Species had risen, grown confident, forgotten cost, and fallen, again and again. You think survival is about strength, Unit Gray said. It is not. Then what is it about? The speaker asked. Memory and restraint. The chamber grew quiet. You asked why we mark ourselves, Unit Gray continued. It is not to show power. It is to remind us that power failed. One delegate whispered, And touching it? That is why your cadet collapsed, Unit Gray said. He felt what happens when memory is forced. The council recessed for hours. Debate filled the chamber behind sealed doors. Fear argued with logic. Pride argued with evidence. At the academy, Director Hesh waited. Krellis stood beside him, watching the stars. I touched the mark, Krellis said quietly. I survived it. Yes, Hesh replied, because you listened after. Krellis swallowed. Will they listen? They must, Hesh said. The council reconvened. The speaker stood. We will not ban humans, he announced. We will not restrict their history. Unit Gray did not react. But, the speaker continued, we will create a law. The chamber displayed the new directive. Galactic Survival Statute, Article 1. Human combat marks are not to be touched, studied, copied, or demanded. Violation will be considered an act of aggression. A pause. Article 2. Human survival doctrine will be included in all advanced military education. Gasps spread. Article 3. Humans are to be consulted before extinction-level decisions. The law passed. Not unanimously, but enough. Unit Gray bowed his head once. Back at the academy, the rule was carved in stone at the entrance of Simulation Hall 1. Krellis stood before it. He read the words slowly. Never touch a human combat mark. Never ask how it was earned. Unit Gray prepared to leave the academy days later. Director Hesh walked with him to the transport bay. You changed us, Hesh said. No, the human replied. You listened. Hesh hesitated. Will humans ever stop hiding their marks? Unit Gray paused at the ramp. Maybe, he said, when the galaxy learns that survival is not shameful. Krellis stepped forward. And if we forget again? The human looked at him. Then we will remind you. Quietly, like we always have. The transport doors closed. As the ship departed, the academy stood silent, not in fear, but in respect. The galaxy had learned a rule that day. not about humans, but about survival. Because some species fight to win, and some carry the memory of what happens when no one does.